In the turbulent 3rd century of the Roman Empire, when each day brought new challenges and threats, a man possessing all the qualities needed to restore the empire's greatness emerged onto the historical stage. This was Claudius II Gothicus. Like his predecessor Gallienus, he seemed the embodiment of hope, a figure capable of uniting the fragmented parts of the vast empire. For a long time, he effectively served as the empire's second-in-command, managing its affairs with characteristic firmness. However, despite such a promising beginning, his own reign, alas, proved regrettably brief. It was marked by both triumphs and bitter defeats. On one hand, Hispania, once detached from imperial control, was meticulously reincorporated into the empire, a testament to his administrative and military prowess. But on the other, it was during this period that the audacious Zenobia and her powerful Palmyrene Empire, a harbinger of future upheavals, dared to openly declare their full independence from Rome, challenging its centuries-old authority. In an era when emperors often met their end at the hands of traitors or on the battlefield, Claudius II Gothicus stands out as one of the very few figures of the 3rd century who escaped a violent demise. His fate was far more insidious and unpredictable. He fell victim to the devastating Cyprian plague, the same merciless epidemic that had previously claimed the life of another short-lived ruler, Emperor Justinian. This unseen threat, like a shadow, haunted the empire, claiming lives regardless of rank or power. And here history takes an unexpected turn that compels many scholars to meticulously re-examine every word of ancient scrolls. There is a supposition that Claudius might have been a relative or even a direct ancestor of Constantine the Great himself, the future founder of a new imperial dynasty. This intriguing fact, however, raises considerable doubt among historians, as most surviving sources seem excessively eager to portray his life and career solely in a laudatory light, which might indicate an attempt by later rulers to legitimize their lineage. What truly lies behind these panegyrics? Was Claudius truly the ideal ruler he was depicted to be? Nevertheless, one thing remains undeniable: Claudius was one of Emperor Gallienus's most trusted and capable generals, whose loyalty and military prowess were unquestionable. To avoid confusion with an earlier namesake from the Julio-Claudian dynasty, this distinguished military leader and ruler is now commonly referred to as Marcus Aurelius Valerius Claudius, or simply Claudius II, a name permanently etched in the annals of history. Born in Illyricum on May 10, 214, Claudius was destined to leave his mark on history. Emperor Gallienus apparently placed deep trust in Claudius throughout his reign, yet the paths by which he came to be in close proximity to the emperor remain shrouded in historical uncertainty. Perhaps he was among Valerian's inner circle, as it was Claudius who assumed the duties of Crinitus when Valerian arrived on the Danube in 256. At that time, he was likely appointed dux of the entire Danubian front, but he was later sent to Gaul to reinforce Gallienus's forces when the Franks and Alemanni launched a devastating invasion. From that moment and throughout the remainder of the emperor's reign, Claudius remained consistently by Gallienus's side, serving as one of his most trusted and capable commanders. Gallienus fell victim to a conspiracy near Mediolanum in September 268, and according to widespread tradition, on his deathbed he officially appointed Claudius as his successor. The army promptly gave its assent and elevated Claudius to the imperial throne. The Senate, in turn, ratified the army's choice and granted him the title of Augustus. Senators experienced undisguised relief upon learning of Gallienus's demise, as many of them held him in deep contempt. Historical accounts diverge regarding the details of subsequent events. Nevertheless, the ultimate outcome remained unchanged: the siege of Mediolanum was lifted, and Aurelius was killed. Gallienus's supporters in the capital were either removed from power or put to death, and his last surviving son was also killed at this time, which apparently caused Claudius great distress, leading him to intervene and urge senators to show leniency and prudence toward the deceased emperor's adherents. The newly appointed emperor marched on Rome to definitively solidify his position and secure the Senate's favor. Throughout his reign, he apparently maintained relations characterized by mutual respect and goodwill with this influential body. Gallienus, however, was an object of deep contempt from the Senate, as he had significantly curtailed their power, stripping them of their traditional prerogatives to command armies and govern provinces. The Senate sought to consign Gallienus's name to oblivion, destroying his statues and removing his name from public records. Claudius, however, strongly demanded that the deceased emperor be accorded divine honors. Despite potential disapproval from the Roman Senate, Emperor Claudius did not alter or repeal any of the previously established policies of his predecessor, Gallienus. The empire Claudius inherited remained in a state of profound chaos and fragmentation. 8 years before his accession, Gaul, Britannia, and Hispania had already broken away from central authority, forming what were essentially independent states. Concurrently, in the east, Palmyra, following Emperor Valerian's capture, had asserted its hegemony, operating virtually independently, though still nominally acknowledging Rome's supreme authority. During this turbulent period, Gothic tribes continued to devastate the Balkan Peninsula, their desperation and hunger fueled by the collapse of their large-scale migration. In 269, Claudius made a decisive strategic move, dispatching the future Emperor Aurelian to the Balkans to combat the Gothic invasion. This action effectively replaced Macrianus, a commander who had been appointed by Gallienus. If one accepts the hypothesis that Aurelian and Claudius were involved in a conspiracy against Gallienus, then this removal of Macrianus could be seen as a prudent and necessary step by the new emperor. Furthermore, the prefect of Egypt, Tenagino Probus, also appointed by Gallienus, was confirmed in his position and given a clear order, to clear the waters of the eastern Mediterranean of pirate activity. Concurrently, Heraclianus was sent to the east with a dual mission, to restore Roman control by waging war against Sasanian Persia and to subjugate the Palmyrene queen Zenobia. Apparently, he achieved partial success in these endeavors, as it was after these events that Claudius was awarded the honorary title of Parthicus Maximus. The quiet acquiescence of Odenathus, Zenobia's husband, to Roman suzerainty, his nominal recognition of Rome's authority, and his actions on behalf of Emperor Gallienus created an appearance of stability. His wife, Zenobia, however, demonstrated far greater independence in her actions. Apparently, she concluded her own peace treaty with Persia, seeking to secure advantageous trade routes from the east and strengthen Palmyra's economic position. In early 270, relations between Rome and Palmyra sharply deteriorated. Zenobia effectively declared independence, initiating an expansion that led to the conquest of Syria up to the Egyptian border. Soon thereafter, Anatolia also fell under strong Palmyrene influence, significantly expanding her sphere of control. Meanwhile, in Egypt, Probus successfully dealt with the pirate threat but soon faced a much larger problem. Most tribes in Roman North Africa rose in revolt. This led to a large-scale military campaign that left Egypt virtually undefended, a circumstance Zenobia immediately exploited. Concurrently, with the new emperor and a significant portion of the Roman army dispatched to Thrace to combat the Goths, Italy found itself extremely vulnerable. The Alemanni and Juthungi tribes exploited this, invading the peninsula in 269. These tribes had already been partially subdued after defeats inflicted by Gallienus, who had concluded peace treaties with them. There were three probable reasons for their renewed hostility. Firstly, after Gallienus's assassination, they might have considered their treaties null and void. Secondly, Gallienus's second wife, Pippa, was possibly the daughter of a Juthungian tribe, and her killing along with her husband could have served as a pretext for revenge. However, the most probable reason was considered to be Claudius's cessation of the subsidies Gallienus had agreed upon. In any case, the tribes were poised to invade Italian territory. Claudius swiftly assembled his troops, although the main body of the Roman army was likely intended to join Aurelian in the Balkans. It is presumed that Claudius commanded the elite cavalry corps that Gallienus had created while moving north to prevent barbarian tribes from crossing the Alps. It was this corps that enabled him to halt the barbarian invasion near Lake Garda, close to Verona. After his victory, Claudius adopted the honorary title Germanicus Maximus. The return of Hispania to Roman rule was a significant event during a period of imperial instability. At this time, Postumus, the ruler of the Gallic Empire, faced a series of defeats from Gallienus, which significantly undermined his authority and made his throne vulnerable to internal rebellions. Indeed, by 269, Postumus found himself embroiled in a fierce civil war against Gallienus, further weakening his position. Meanwhile, Emperor Claudius, demonstrating strategic foresight, dispatched a detachment under the command of Julius Placidianus to southern Gaul, successfully reclaiming for Rome the territories east of the Rhone River. Claudius, it is known, held the view that usurpers represented more of a personal problem, whereas foreign invasions directly threatened the state. Based on this philosophy, he decided to focus his forces on eliminating the external threat before dealing with Postumus. It should be noted that the Franks began their invasions of the empire as early as 260, when Gallienus was engaged in military operations in Italy. This circumstance left Gaul, Hispania, and Britannia virtually defenseless, ultimately leading to their de facto secession from the Roman Empire and the establishment of the Gallic Empire under Postumus. Some of these Frankish military units settled in Hispania, forming a kind of pirate state, a problem Postumus never effectively managed to resolve. Consequently, the Spanish provinces clearly recognized Postumus's weakness and his inability to ensure their security. This understanding led them to decide to return to imperial control, publicly declaring their allegiance to Claudius and Rome. Claudius's exact whereabouts after his triumphant victory at Lake Garda remained shrouded in historical uncertainty. Nevertheless, prevailing hypotheses suggest his probable presence in Italy, where he was presumably poised to wage further war against the aggressive Alemannic tribes. Initially, it appears he planned to send his brother, Quintillus, with vital reinforcements to Aurelian, who was then conducting military operations in the Balkan Peninsula. However, at the last moment, Emperor Claudius was overcome by serious doubts, and he changed his mind. His deep concern stemmed from the possibility that Aurelian, upon gaining command of both powerful armies, might proclaim himself emperor, challenging the existing authority. Consequently, Claudius himself marched to the Balkans, entrusting the conduct of the war on Italian soil to his brother. There is also a viewpoint that Aurelian, possessing extraordinary strategic acumen, deliberately avoided engaging in a decisive battle with the Gothic invaders. This hypothesis suggests his goal was to preserve his military forces for a meticulously planned seizure of imperial power. Considering his brilliant and impeccable military record, which irrefutably confirmed his status as one of Rome's most outstanding and effective commanders, such an idea gained significant plausibility. His career indeed exemplified exceptional military genius. The main body of Gothic invaders had already been decisively defeated in the epical Battle of Nisus, which occurred during Emperor Gallienus's reign. In this regard, Aurelian's apparent inability or, perhaps, unwillingness to definitively crush the remaining Gothic detachments raises certain questions and suspicions among historians. However, the prevailing circumstances must be considered. The Goths were trapped in the impassable Haemus mountains and were slowly but inexorably dying from hunger and disease. In light of such a situation, refraining from an immediate decisive assault and opting for a strategy of attrition could well have been a very sensible and strategically sound decision, allowing for minimized losses among Roman legions while achieving the desired outcome. Quintillus. During his march eastward, Claudius, the Emperor of Rome, contracted the Cyprian plague and died shortly thereafter. In Sirmium, a vital strategic point, the deceased emperor's brother, Quintillus, was promptly proclaimed the new ruler by Claudius's legions. This proclamation quickly resonated and was recognized by the Senate, seemingly solidifying his position. However, forces under Aurelian's command refused to acknowledge the new emperor's legitimacy and, in response, proclaimed their own commander as emperor, thereby challenging Quintillus's claim to the throne. Quintillus's reign proved exceedingly brief, lasting only a few months, and very little reliable information about his activities as head of state has survived to this day. There is even a belief that he never had the opportunity to make a ceremonial entry into Rome, the empire's capital. The circumstances leading to Quintillus's demise remain quite obscure and are still a subject of debate. A largely unreliable source, known as the Historia Augusta, claims that Quintillus was a harsh and demanding military commander, and that he was killed by his own men for this reason. Meanwhile, some historians propose his death in battle against Aurelian's forces, while others assert that he took his own life by slitting his veins. The undeniable fact remains only that after his death, Aurelian unequivocally inherited the imperial throne. Claudius's imperial term was short, and during his reign, he achieved rather modest results. Hispania was reincorporated into the empire, but this likely occurred not due to Claudius's direct successes, but rather due to the failures of his predecessor, Postumus. Moreover, his tactless and inept handling of Zenobia, the powerful queen of Palmyra, apparently provoked her open revolt against Rome. Nevertheless, even before his accession to the throne, Claudius had established himself as an outstanding general and a brilliant cavalry commander during Emperor Gallienus's reign. He enjoyed immense respect and affection among both common soldiers and the officer corps. It was he who inflicted a crushing defeat on the Alemanni and Juthungi tribes who had invaded Italy. It is conjectured that had it not been for the fatal plague infection, Claudius might have proven himself as capable and effective a ruler as Gallienus or even Aurelian. However, his reign was simply too short for us to fully judge his true merits and potential as emperor.